Hello and welcome to the NERO Show, episode 119.
In today's episode, Canyon have released a new #MyCustom program. It's a little bit underwhelming. We chat through what you can actually customize in it.
The opening weekend of pro racing, we chat through some of the trends that we're seeing racing and in the tech.
I've been riding the Giant Defy, an endurance bike. I chat through my review of it.
And it turns out Jesse hasn't retired from racing. We go head to head at a local crit. How does it play out? All right, let's get into it.
What a week, Chris. We're on. There's been a lot going on. Pro season started.
Opening
Stuff's getting
weekend.
released. There's a lot. Did you see Custom Canyon?
Well, yes, I did see it. She saw the pre-release like dodgy picture on the the sort of, what's coming? And I'm not gonna lie, for a brief second I was like, holy shit, a new Aero! Oh my god! Did I text you? No, because I did kind of think BS at the time.
Yeah.
Potentially I was right.
Because we knew it wasn't going to be a new bike. Well, it wasn't going to be a new Aero. They just released it.
A quick part of me did think it might be an Aero gravel bike. That was my... I did briefly think that.
Well, you're on the right track in the sense that when brands do the coming 24 hours, that gets the juices flowing. We're going, it must be big. They're doing the preview post. And then they release it the next day. Big Instagram videos, all the hype. #MyCanyon, #custom made. We've got descriptions saying handcrafted from raw frame to dream machine with best-in-class components and custom fit precision. And you got flame emojis in the comments. All the teams are chiming in. You've got Valtteri and all the influencers.
Oh, Valtteri's on board.
Yep, wetting
Fantastic.
themselves all in the comments.
Yep.
I'm thinking this is Custom Canyon.
Custom Canyon.
I'm a fan of Canyon products, and I'm thinking, okay, MyCanyon, custom made. I'm thinking, oh, cool. Is it fully custom paint? Is it fully custom specs? What actually is this? And so I want to break down what the hell is Canyon's new custom program. Firstly, it's for now only available in the US.
Are you certain?
Yep.
Because Ben Delaney's video, he says it's available in Asia Pacific region from April. But he doesn't state that it's only in the US to begin with. He says Asia Pacific region in April and the rest of the world after that.
Yeah, okay. Well, on Canyons, it says available in the US now, more regions coming soon. So I'm not sure what he's on about there. But for now in the US, and then they're going to expand out after that. What can you customize? The Canyon Aero only, and the CFR version, which is their top spec frame version, and not the frame set. You can only customize a fully built version. So that's only going to include the SRAM Red and the Dura Ace.
Yep.
So that's your starting point. You pick those, you pick your SRAM Red or your Dura Ace and the CFR, and then you go into your customization options.
Couldn't you do that before? Couldn't you choose a group set?
Yes, there's more customizations to come once you select your group set. So you got to that's your starting point. Your CFR with your group set. Then you can select from not custom paint. I thought this would be like Factor, where they've got different, choose your base color, choose your highlights package, and you can do like a semi-custom. That's not what this is.
Trek
you can
Project
choose,
1?
Yeah, Trek Project 1, Pinarello, Dogma My Way.
I think Orbea have one.
Mm-hmm. So it's not that.
Right.
There are 9 different paint options once you select the build you want. So some are interesting. They're colorful. They're kind of collaborations with artistic projects and yada, yada, yada. But there's 9 to choose from. So it's not full custom and not even as close. There's no customization, actually. It's basically 9 different stock colors. I've got more to say on that compared to other brands, but we'll leave that there. So you select your color. You select one of 9. Keep in mind, if you're not doing the custom, there's usually only one color to choose from in the stock build. Then you start to get into part selections. You can choose your stem length. Canyon have been quite good. They have the adjustable width bars, so they've already had that covered, but they let you to pick your stem length. What have you got? 100 to 130 mil in 10 millimeter increments. So no 90 mil length. There are people that run 90 mil stems. That's pretty common. No big boy 140s. That's for the pros only. But there you go. You get to choose your stem length. Then you get to pick your wheels. I'm thinking, this is good because they come stock with the DT Swiss.
Yep.
Coyle's most hated wheel.
Yep.
So I'm thinking, great.
Yep.
We get some options. What do you get to pick from? DT Swiss or Zip 454s. That's it. That's all you get. So you either get the wheels that would have come with it, or you get the wheels from the SRAM stock CFR build. So they're not actually introducing more options. You're just picking from ones that they already have. Then you get to pick your saddle. I'm thinking, great. The stock one is the Cell Italia SLR Boost. We used them in 2020 on the NERO Continental team.
I still use one.
Chris likes it. I hated it. It hurt to piss after I rode with that saddle. That's just nothing.
Tell us what you really think.
Nothing wrong with the saddle. I felt like I had an STI. It just didn't agree with me. It didn't agree with me. So that's just the shape, for whatever reason, didn't work for me. So what do you get to pick from with Canyon? You get the SLR Boost, or the SLR Boost Carbon, or the SLR Boost Superflow. So you're just picking different specs of the same shaped saddle. And there's only 3 of them. That's the saddle choice. Okay. Then anything else? That's basically it. What's the final thing you can do? They've got some add-ons. You can add a name sticker with your country's flag. That's kind of nice. The wheel one also is really annoying because they're two pretty average wheel choices, and getting the Zip 454 is an extra $900. For $1,000, you could get the Yolio C60 Pro SL2s, which are still steel spokes. They are, I think, like 1350 or 1400 grams, and they're wide. And so for that upgrade cost, you could just buy a whole new set of wheels and sell the DT Swiss ones. You'd probably make your money back. So the wheel options are really not good either. So what can't you customize that I would like to see? Group set choice. I might want to buy the top spec Aero and put an Ultegra on it. Should be able to do that. Crank length, can't customize that. Chainring size, can't customize that. Cassette size, tire model and tire width, also can't customize. So if we want to compare to some other brands, like we know Factor does it quite well. So the Prisma Studio, firstly, is way more customizable in terms of the colors. As we said, they highlight different sections of the frame and then you can pick the color. Once you've chosen the color of the frame with Factor, you can then choose to buy frame, fork, and handlebar, frame, fork, handlebar, and wheels, or a full build with Ultegra, Force, Dura Ace, and Red. Then they allow you to pick between 2 seat post options, 0 offset or 20mm setback, and you can pick your crank length down to 165 in SRAM. For some reason, Shimano it only goes down to 170. And they have a huge width of and lengths of handlebars. So instantly, it's not even close to what Factor are offering. Obviously, you can probably tell in my tone, it's irritating me. Is that it? Does that annoy you? Or am I just getting upset for no reason?
A little column A, a little column B, I think. So just us talking about it is achieving the goal that they wanted from this entire release, which is, I do agree it's a bit of a fake news launch, a fake news release to get idiots like us to either get pissed off and talk about it or be one of their influencers and hype it up for absolutely no reason. So yeah, there's a little bit of that to it. I'm not as worked up about it's only in the CFR model. That's pretty common practice. Like Trek, their Project 1, that's only for the Madone top level spec bikes. Same with Factor top level spec bikes. So I can certainly get around. Can certainly avoid that. The biggest one for me, I think, is one of the ones you touched on towards the back end, is that you can't customize this and down spec the group set. That to me is a real missed opportunity. I don't actually know why you wouldn't do that. I mean, does it devalue the CFR to spec it with Force? I don't think so. I think it just makes it way more attainable for more people. So I just think that's a massive missed opportunity. The bar stem thing, God, they should have done that years ago. I don't know why we had to wait so long. The wheel thing, I'm not as worked up about that because ultimately, if you are someone who's going to be customizing wheel sets, neither of probably the market is so big, it's so huge, it's going to be impossible to cover the bases of what Jesse Coyle wants and Hambini wants at this point.
What about from a top level? To call this my custom, Sorry, to call this hashtag MyCanyon, hashtag custom made,
Oh,
and do big launch.
Yeah, complete and utter fake news.
I think it annoys me because I find it a bit insulting as a consumer, someone that buys bikes, is for them to do such a hard launch of it and it to be so clearly not custom. It's kind of, I just find that's a bit insulting and also a little bit insulting to the likes of Factor that have put effort in to actually do a good custom program. And then Canyon come along, who are already kind of undercutting everyone anyway because they're direct to consumer, and try and steal everyone's lunch in the custom section and then not do it as well. I don't like it.
That's a great point. And it's disrespectful to the bike shops that basically do this shit day in, day out for their customers. They don't call it customization. They just call it
I got a custom
buying a bike
because my local shop swapped the handlebars for me.
So I totally can see that.
I got one other thing on this. Side tangent, no more about the specs. We kind of chatted about that. You go on the Aero CFR product page and there's got the 2 specs. And I'm looking there. We've got badges. We've got stickers of approval.
Oh no.
Yeah. So we've got on this SRAM one, we've got
bike?
Road CC, Money No Object Bike of the Year winner. This is on the front page, big sticker next to the frame. And then on the other one, it's a different. So that's Tour Magazine Best of Test competition. We've discussed this before, but I cannot discuss this without bringing it up again because it drives me up the wall to no end. By the way, for those that maybe haven't listened in the past, the reason why we have these NERO Show certified fast bike and certified dog of a bike stickers is for exactly this reason. So I'm going to leave the Tour Magazine Best of Test one alone because their testing has objective measures in it. They put the frames on a stiffness testing jig and they aero test the frames. So I'm going to leave Tour Magazines alone. I'm just going to highlight the one that the SRAM Red Build gets, which is the Road CC Bike of the Year. So I went to the Bike of the Year article they did.
I'm reading it now.
Money No Object Bike of the Year. And it's just they're chatting through the bikes. Really? And the things they're referencing for why the Canyon won it was from a review they did. So you click through to the review and go, okay, how have they assessed this bike? And how did they test this to decide to give it their Bike of the Year, which Canyon are plastering on their global website for the top spec frame? Some dude from the office wrote it, and it won the award.
Next minute, plastered. Global website.
I'm sorry, that is disgraceful.
Yeah.
Why are Canyon using that? That is such garbage. It's just some dude from the Road CC office thinks it's good, and suddenly then it's plastered that it's Bike of the Year. I think I hate it.
No,
I hate it.
We got to call this stuff out. I'm sick of these. These are, especially the way that the brands then use them as a marketing tool, and at the same time you've got a brand advertising on that particular website. This just stinks. And just quickly, well, can I mention the top 5? So I just saw this.
Okay.
This
is Money No Objects bikes of the year.
Money No Object super bikes. If you're after cutting edge performance and you're willing to pay for it, Jesse, Dogma F. All right. Cool. I can get around that. Yep. No issues. The Dogma X, which is the endurance bike version. Okay. Potentially. I can get around that. Orbea Orca Aero, as tested by Tour Magazine as a official dog.
I did.
Factor O2 VAM, the not very lightweight climbing bike that most people have slammed as at least second best to a TCR. The Enigma Icon frame.
Oh dear.
Of course, we had to throw in a titanium frame to keep everyone happy on that side of the world.
Yep.
Canyon Ultimate CFR.
Oh, second spot. They got 1-2.
They got 1-2.
Wow.
Got on the old
high
Quinella.
performing. Good.
Fantastic. So 6.7, again, not as light as a TCR, whatever. And then the Canyon Aero.
Okay.
Money, no object. Performance is your absolute priority. There's your top 5.
And what did they beat? Again, we're beating a dead horse because I've said this before, but what other bikes were in the test? What is better than what? This is just a list of bikes that, again, a dude has just ridden in the office and gone, oh, it feels pretty stiff. Oh, yeah, holds the speed. That's literally it. And then Canyon use it as the award. So that's it there. Road CC Bike of the Year.
Like,
what are we doing? What are we doing?
If you're Canyon, just double down on the influencer thing. Just get friggin' Valtteri on there saying he loves it.
Valtteri. That could be a sticker. Maybe we do a sticker. Not? Just Valtteri's head. It'd be Valtteri rates
Valtteri approved.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fast bike.
It would be more meaningful than some random
100%.
dude from Road CC.
100%. I got way more credit for Valtteri than Stu from The Office.
Okay. For the sake of keeping things moving, that's all I'm going to say on that. I've done my bit. I had to mention it. I'm not letting that one slide.
All right. While you might be about negativity, Jesse Coyle, I'm Mr.
Right.
Positive.
Okay.
Positive Chris today. So I want to talk about the Boardman SLR road bikes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, only available in the UK, but from this release, I think it was definitely worth a mention. So straight off the bat, I just have to mention the pricing of these. So the two models that I want to talk about are the SLR 9.8, which is £5,500, and an SLR 9.6, which is £3,500, which is kind of wild. An Ultegra or a Red group set 404 zip wheels. Just spec-wise, super impressive. But then I just wanted to come into the actual bike itself, which aesthetically, I know you haven't done much of a deep dive into this.
I'm looking at it now.
What do you think, just looking at that with your little Aero hat on?
SL7?
Does.
Bit deeper, though.
So
Deeper fork slightly. Down tube looks a bit deep. It's kind of got Tavello front end and like SL7 back end.
There's a bit of credit.
It's seen a wind tunnel. Look at this.
It has seen a wind tunnel.
I can't be bothered actually looking at what they've done, but it's been in a wind tunnel at Silverstone.
Here is a bike that's bothered stars to go there, and it's given us a rough idea of where it sits. That's all we wanted to know. That's all we wanted to know. So, yeah, I mean, talking?
Actually, it's not all we wanted to know. I should probably, if I could have been bothered, if they've shared the results, maybe that needs a dig into. But I'm not saying... we're kind of joking. Just because it's been in the Intel doesn't mean it's good. I'm just saying there should be data somewhere to look through. But sorry, carry on.
Slightly more aero than the previous version.
Of course.
So there you go.
That's
job
what
done.
We want. Okay.
Room for 36mm tyres. Room for fenders.
Oh, good.
Yeah, which is a thing. It's interesting the way that what I really like about this. Putting the specs aside, it's going to build up around, it'll build up on that SRAM axis build just under 8 kilos, so about 7.7, they're saying, with big, thick tyres on there. But what I like about this is it's trying to market itself differently. It's not saying it's an endurance bike. It's not saying it's a road bike. It's not even calling itself an all-road bike. It's calling itself a 4 seasons bike.
Oh wow, we've got another category.
We've got a new category. And it's a
emergency pod.
It's a 4 seasons fast category. And okay, I don't know the person in Australia who is this particular bike owner, but I can imagine in my head people in the UK who would fit the bill for this.
I can imagine. Who
might do a couple of Grand Fondos in the summer, but do want to also experience their fun, fast bike in the shitty winter. They don't want to do the winter bike thing. I really rate this.
You know what it is for someone in Australia? It's a Tasmania bike.
Oh, there you go.
Yep. Winters are kind of harsh. It's this gravelly stuff. You still want to do your road racing in the summer. Yep. Tassie bike.
It's potentially a Cam Nichols in Noosa bike as well. Because it's fake news that it's nice weather up there. It's friggin' hot, humid, and raining half the time.
Okay.
And the roads are pretty grippy. I reckon the Noosa bunchies, you could definitely get around on this. Climbs are only 3-4 minutes long. Don't need something super lightweight. Glide over them with your fast tubeless wheels.
So
I could see this.
I'm trying to figure this out then. So, but it's kind of irrelevant because it's only UK, right?
Yes, but that's not there.
Okay.
It's distributed through a big thing there called Halfords, I think it is, which is like a decathlon type. Type shop. But I just liked the categorization of it. I liked the look of it, and I liked the fact that it wasn't talking down to people who wanted to not buy a race bike. And
Okay.
it even threw in some wind tunnel testing for those people as well. So it's not dumbing them down.
Yes.
I like it. Side note, just quickly, anytime Dave Arthur, you may mention this, mentions the word Aero in his bike reviews, it's like he's in pain
Bike where it's pure aero.
when he says it, because he knows his audience are like, oh, you're talking about Aero. It's just always this thing at the end of his thing, and it's done Aero testing. It's just, let it go, Dave. Let it go. It's happened has happened. All right, let's pause for a moment, Jesse, and have a quick chat from today's show partner, Silka, and some of their new products.
Yeah, the big one is an update to their ultimate tubeless sealant. The original one they released 2.5 years ago, regarded around the world for its sealing properties. What have they done? They've taken that and they've updated it, firstly, to make it last longer. They're claiming 6+ months inside the tire before it dries out, and also made it injectable through the valve core so it's easier to apply. So just across the board, an improvement on what was already a very well-regarded product. For those that are interested in the technical side, they've got 2 different types of latex in there to help it seal, plus they put in all these tiny little separated carbon strands. There's actually carbon fiber in the sealant. The combination of those two allows it to clog up and jam all the holes when you get a flat.
That's awesome. The other thing that these guys are pretty famous for at this stage is the chain waxing system. Eagle-eyed viewers don't probably notice that my little wax was not behind either of us last week. That's because I was once again using it in preparation for peaks. I'm now 4 strip chips deep in my usage of the one pack of secret chain lube. So I've still got a few more to go, but I can't vouch for that enough in terms of the practicality of it in a house, being able to sort of keep that separate. And so far, so good. The chain waxing system, $169.95 in Australia, and will ship with an AU plug. So if you want to grab that or anything else on the Silka website, please go ahead and use code NEROSHOW at checkout for 15% off. And a big thanks to Silka for supporting today's episode. We could loosely categorize this as pro cycling chat, but I think it potentially goes beyond that. But it's been an eventful couple of weeks, professional racing wise, and also what we're seeing equipment wise from them. What do you want to chat about?
Well, did you see this riders going the wrong way in the finales thing?
Yep.
I want your opinion on that. So it happened the first one was a stage of Tour of Algarve where Ganna won, and because the rest of the pelotons diverted off the roundabout and gone on a road following the finishing straight in with all the people, and then Ganna takes the right course and wins. And then it happened again at the Fawn Ardèche Classic. Same thing. So what's happening is the motorbikes and the lead vehicles are getting diverted away at the end. And usually that's done on a pretty obvious slip road coming off the course. And so it's blindingly obvious for the riders that they have to continue following the barriers, and then the vehicles follow the slip road. Whereas what's happening here is, in these 2 instances, I think both times it happened at roundabouts and in the last kilometre to go. And so riders can't really barely see where they're going because they're already nearly at max heart rate, going so fast that they're instinctively just following the lead moto off the course and completely missing the fact that the course is going the other way. And I think it's the roundabout that's doing it because it's not as obvious which way the riders are supposed to go. Have you been in a race where this could happen?
But first it's disc brakes, I think. Disc brakes are the issue, or tubeless. The closest I've come to doing it is actually the finish of Grafton. When you come down the hill, you don't take the first right. There's a roundabout that's the slip road for the vehicles that is not obvious that you don't take. It's the next one where the actual finishing straight is. So, and I can remember once almost following the moto into the wrong one. So yes, I'm actually surprised it doesn't happen more. And having been someone driving a car, not in front, but certainly behind a race, I've been confused as well. Like, do we keep going here? Or especially when you're like the first car in the convoy or something like that. Oh, shit, we're in the deviation. We go off here. So it it is a thing. I'm surprised it doesn't happen more. Can I just mention that first one? We are so lucky to be sitting here and not talking about carnage.
Yeah.
Like they were sprinting essentially through a crowd that then just turned around to watch them come past.
They're waving, they're coming on.
They're coming this
wait,
side.
they're behind us.
That's cool. That's really close to the action.
And like, they're lucky that little Jimmy wasn't just playing with a ball in the street. For some reason, the street was just empty. People must have managed to get out of the way. But I mean, imagine, if there was someone on the middle of the road.
There's definitely a thing with it. I do think just the number of vehicles, you'll see this now, especially as the classics kind of go along, just the number of vehicles on the road in front and behind of the actual race now is wild. Absolutely wild. And there's always the guy blowing up at the moto sitting just in front of the brake that's just off the front. So you're right. You're just ingrained to following the vehicle that's in front.
I'm pretty excited for gear again this season. When it was all rim brake stuff from years ago, it was quite exciting. You saw little tweaks and those kind of advancements. Then we had the awkward introduction of disc brake years where it felt like teams weren't really riding what they wanted to ride, or they just weren't doing their homework to go for all the little gains. And I feel like this year it is all bets are off because every team has some performance manager, some Dan Bigham, Dowsett type. And it's now, there's no more rules. It's just, we're doing everything and we don't care if it's 0.1 of a watt, we're going for it. And I think it's great. It's funny, it's ugly, but it's interesting. So I don't know if you've spotted anything. I mean, the obvious one is Jumbo riding around in time trial helmets. I mean...
Well, they've been listening to the show. They're on board. They were wearing time trial helmets with sunglasses. I get it.
Just, how can you keep up with that? You've got a sprint finish and there's some Jumbo dude on an S5 with Aero overshoes and a time trial suit and a time trial helmet. It's massive. Like, yeah, I don't know why it took them so long, but it's just pretty cool to see that it's this kind of all bets are off attitude.
I don't have a favorite piece of tech so far, but it is what you mentioned, all teams are doing it. Like there's a shot there from one of these semi-classics of the Tiedemann Rockets. Yep. So Pro Conti team, just quietly, I'm a fan, I'm on board, 100%. But they're on the front. They're like a Pro Conti team, but they're fully optimized. Like absolutely, like, what are we on? Cannondales with full Aero chain rings, but they've got the Nirvana helmets, Aero tucked, like full Cupid setups, just diving down the front. Like when you've got the Pro Conti teams as optimized as everyone else, it's a new game.
Is this maybe why people keep missing the course and taking the deviations?
Disc brakes,
no one's looking where they're going. No one can see. They've all got Aero helmets on.
Yep.
They're going way too fast, and so all they can do is just follow the motor.
I will say, and a pro did mention this to me, when they were training on their time trial bike. Wonder how safe some of these time trial helmets actually are in a crash. Because they're pretty big.
Okay.
Like, and I don't know, like in terms of actually big pile-ups, because are they designed to be as safe as others? But anyway, that was my thing. Can I mention the valve?
Please, yeah. What have you seen? I got some others, but you spotted this one.
Well, this one
around.
popped up from Omloop on a zip rim. Again, this is part of Chris Miller's grand plan for what he wants on his head unit. Current PSI values. Now, no, not an ability to control said PSI value, but just a readout of what your current PSI is, accurate and displayed on your head unit. You're going to say why? That
is exactly the word I was going to say.
Why not?
What are you doing with that?
Why not? Accuracy, Jesse. You know, if I'm going to...
You can't change it once the ride started.
No, you can't. Absolutely. But you can. You certainly can pre-race, you know. I've got no issues with this. You might be able to spot a slow leak before it happens in a professional sense.
Okay.
Or this is just a pure beta piece of technology that's not intended to be released at any point, but it's just okay, let's monitor our tire pressure, which is what I think is actually happening here. Let's monitor our tire pressure for a season and see what fluctuations occur throughout a race, throughout a tour, and see then where we go. Because I thought it was slightly odd that it appeared on Tom Pidcock's bike.
Mm.
Q365, whatever, doing good things, but not a Visma, not a big Bora, and also not on a team that is sponsored by Michelin. Michelin being the tires that Zip are designed to run with, and what actually the Zip tires are made by Michelin. They're on Vittorias.
Mm.
So I don't know. My take on this was more that this is a bit of a data assessment type thing.
Okay.
And let's see what
I didn't see it like that because the tire whiz used to be this big ugly thing sticking off the valve, and it was consumer grade.
Mm.
They've done a good job to make it nice and flush. It just fits in the rim now. I don't want to be a Luddite, but I don't get it. You know the pressure when you pump it up, and so what is it doing? If you can't change the pressure, it's going to alert you when you start to get a flat. I don't really see the value in it, but maybe I'll be proven wrong. I'm just going to do a quick fire other stuff that we've been seeing. S-Works teams, Red Bull Bora, new unbranded S-Works tubeless tyres in a 30mm width. New wheel set too. Speculation there's a new sprint wheel set coming with wider rims and a new hub. For the SRAM teams as well, lots of one-by. Now remember at the Tour Down Under, Sam Welsford was running one-by, and I didn't understand it. I was kind of going, why would you... I don't get the point of running one-by because you're going to have to change it to two-by. So you should have just stuck with two-by for the whole tour. I was missing the point. The point is now, because all bets are off, you just tell the mechanic, put one-by on because I want to save 3 watts by not having a front derailleur.
And also the shifting's faster.
And the faster shifting, apparently.
No.
No, confirmed.
True.
That's no more longer
That's
rumor.
not an apparently.
Okay.
That's true.
All right. And then at the level that it's at, you just demand it. They would have said before, well, we're not doing that. We don't want to change that over tonight. Now it's just, you just change it because, yeah. So I now kind of understand what is going on there. It's just, you just do it now. You don't even think it. And again, one by quite a few of SRAM teams. Emma Norsgaard, Little Trek, one by with a 1044 tooth cassette for Omloop. Weird, massive jumps in that cassette, but again, one by. Why would she be running? Why would she do that?
That was on the Madone, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's UDH compatible, so it was the SRAM Explore group set.
It'd be nice and quiet because it wouldn't be jumping around.
Fast shifting. Maybe it is that. Maybe it's the shifting on the cobbles that derailleur offers, which would be a thing.
More secure?
More secure shifting.
Okay.
Designed for that, because potentially gearing not as big an issue speed-wise in the women's peloton. Yeah. I mean, if I was going to ride those cobbles as a sportif rider, I would 100% choose that setup, definitely. Just due to what I could then run, how comfortable that gearing would be in terms of the chain slap and all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Definitely. And that Explore derailleur is fast, super fast.
But you fix the chain slap just with the regular SRAM red, even if you got 2x. Still got that dampener thing.
I don't know whether it's less likely of coming off, maybe. Okay. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
All right. Uno X on the new Ridleys.
Yes.
Now, you would like to think they're all running integrated bars because it's faster, and a lot of them aren't. They've got the separate bar stem. I think that's to do with the bit funky geometry going on with that frame. Bit too low at the front, or they can't get stock in the right combination of the integrated ones, and so unfortunately you got this beautiful chunked out aero frame and you've got separate bar stem. Interesting one.
By the way, were you aware that is your pro team? If you were to ever ride on a pro team, Jesse Coyle is a Uno X rider.
Okay.
Literally
good.
Just walk-on starter for that team.
Okay.
Just generic, tall, Watts, in a line, at the front, working, no questions asked, more Watts. We won, handshake, move on, next race. That's your team, 100%. Yeah.
I'll take it.
Can we should mention the winner's name. Oh, what's his name?
Soren.
You know, mentioned Soren the other week for skipping some of the Middle Eastern races. Turns out did him a good bit of no harm.
Absolute weapon. More tubeless is coming, so mechanics marking the wheels with the date the sealant went in. They need their Silka Ultimate Tubeless sealant because it lasts longer. You don't have to change it out every 3 months.
Yep.
So interesting that in that marginal gains thing, it's making sure the sealant's topped up. That's about it. I had for gear, no TCRs yet. Everyone's on the Propel for the Jayco team.
That's not news. Who's choosing a TCR for a cobbled classic?
I'm just keeping track.
Okay.
I'm just noting it. It's notable. Poor TCR's not getting a look in.
No,
I think that's worth noting.
I thought the UAE transponder solution was pretty cool. See that one? A little clip in. I'd 100% do that.
Tuck it behind the back of the fork.
I love that idea.
Good.
I hate that big bloody cable tie. You do the pro like inner tube thing, don't you?
No.
You did it. I remember
I've done it before,
Yeah.
but no, not usually. Yeah.
I quite like that. That was a nice little nod. Where are you on the whole Wout crisis? I saw that blew up early this week.
Jesus, barely March.
That's
Give the guy a bit of
Everyone's
time.
like, oh, he's done. He's washed.
Oh my God.
Washed.
He's done 2 classics.
2 classics.
Poor bloke.
Crashed 100 times last year. He's done 2 classics.
Oh.
He's been sitting too far back in the peloton, so therefore washed. Done. It's all over for Wout.
I remember seeing similar articles of people leaving comments. It's just like what's wrong
up?
with Wout?
What's
I'm like,
up?
let's all just relax. Like, yeah, it's interesting.
All right, time for everyone's favourite segment, the Dog of a Bike segment. This week presented by Pillar Performance. Now, Pillar Performance, Jesse Coyle, what are they up to?
Home of your triple magnesium. I'm back on the program now. I've been getting this persistent calf cramp. I think it might be a combination of some running I did, plus strength training, plus picking up the riding. And I can get my left calf to cramp at any moment.
Wow.
Flex it to... It's
goes.
been pestering me for the last month. And so I'm back on the program with the triple magnesium, see if it can fix it. But yeah, Pillar Sports Micronutrition Company, best known for the triple magnesium. They've got a range of other products which you should check out to enhance your cycling performance.
Go ahead and use code NERO at checkout for 15% off. Now, we have a few dogs. We'll see how many we can get through here,
Hold on,
Jesse.
is Dog Or Fast?
Dog or Fast.
We're not
That's correct.
calling them
No,
all
that's
dogs.
there is the potential of fast bikes.
So we got 2 as normal, and then I've got an honourable mention, one I spotted. I'm going to go through a spec list.
All right. And just another quick bit. Seeker Spear owners, stop sending me them. I'm not talking about them. The bike doesn't exist. It's fake. You're all AI-generated humans. We will not talk about the Seeker Spear again on this show till it exists in real life.
What have we got?
Country. Now,
Chris?
we have...
Ooh.
We're going to start
A Tide Ace.
with a Tide Ace.
Interesting. Okay.
As pictured here. For those of you on podcast players, sorry. China frame with a speed sniffer, he's terming it. 50 mils carbon, 1,150 gram wheels from Carbon Bike Kits. 34.5 external, 24 internals with his GP 5000.
These look like zips. I'm confused.
The wheels?
Yeah.
No, they're not. They're Carbon Bike Kits. 7.5 everything attached. Ultegra with some light China components. 5339, 1132, 160 mil crank.
I'm sorry. There's zip logos on these wheels. So are we? Is this a?
Yeah, but they're carbon spokes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what's going? Is this a?
It's just a little decal.
Is this just a decal job
Just
from
decal job.
eBay?
Yeah,
Okay.
I got
All
no
right.
issues with that. Let the kids play.
Okay. Sure. I mean, I don't know how I feel about that, but carry on.
And so there it is. That bar tape's the stuff that we used to use, whatever it was called. Was that right?
Oh, the GUI.
GUI. Yeah,
Mhm.
the GUI stuff. That was quite good. Fast bike or a dog, Jesse?
7.5 kilos with everything attached.
It's a wild thing going on there.
Okay. Frame, it's for those that aren't watching, it's a fully chunked out bike, and it looks like there's a Madone Aero bottle, and that looks like maybe the Cannondale Aero bottle on the down tube. So 2 different bottles.
Yep.
So
optimized.
Good, and like that's a very deep tube shaped frame. Look, it's giving me felt AR1 vibes with that seat tube and the depth. Integrated bars. Ooh. I'm bored. It's the Zip logos on a Chinese wheel set. That's not getting fast bike. I'm not doing it. I've got morals. So it's close. If it just had your generic carbon bike kits wheels, because they are good spec, the 24 internal, 34 external, GP 5030s, but you stick a Zip logo on them, and that's getting dog.
What's his FTP, do you reckon?
270.
No, I think it's a dog, unfortunately. Yeah, I think it's a dog. I think the geometry of that bike's going to be a real challenge as well. Got a nasty feeling that's going to be very, very low. And he's slammed his saddle as far forward as he possibly can. I just have a feeling this is a fit nightmare. And there's just I don't like what's happening around that seat stay top tube.
There's lappy
area.
air.
There's some
going
lappy air
on.
watts being wasted. No, sorry, dog. That's a dog. That's a few dogs in a row.
If we had a backup prize, I'd give it because it's better than some of the others.
Dog.
Yeah,
it's not a certified dog.
Yeah, with a few tweaks. Yep.
Okay.
Could get there.
Now then we move on to a Ritte. Is that how you pronounce it?
Ritte.
Okay. A Ritte Esprit, frame. Tavello Avro 140 bar stem.
Yeah, certified fast bike. Leave it there.
Hang on.
Enough said.
L2 ER9 group set.
Oh, okay,
with gold AliExpress ceramic pulleys and a 105 Shimano calipers.
Okay. So that ER9 is like the one I tried, which is the ERX, but it's like the 105 version to that.
Okay.
Yep.
Praxis 165mm cranks with a power to max eco power meter. Good. Vision TT chain rings, 5236. I can run multiple depth wheels, 50mm Mercury. And there's the other versions. He's got some AliExpress giant propel bottle cages, S-Works carbon post and saddle. Full build, 3K USD and about 7.6 kilos.
Yeah, it has to go one way or the other. I'm going certified fast. 7.6 kilos with an ER9 group set. It's the same weight as your S5.
Yep. No, I
for the money that's put in, he's calling 3K USD.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, it's not going to be fast on a flat road, but if that doesn't matter. I'm going certified for the right person. That's certified fast. Yeah. I rate it. Yep.
I don't hate that. You've talked me into it. No, certified. I'm with you. I'm with her.
This person's FTP could be like 390.
Yeah.
With a 140 stem, that's just yes.
There's a little bit here that says he's strong enough to turn up to a bunch ride and dish it out to dickheads on S5s and go, look at me.
And loves the fact
and loves it.
Yep.
Yeah. No, this has got some stees behind it.
Yep.
I think. Well, that's the official subscribers question. You have put a late entry in here. I noticed.
Late entry, rider from Sydney, and Wollongong. I wanted to put this in as an example of, firstly, good component choices, fast component choices. So we're talking race bike, but also then making the right marginal gains. It's like the good combination of both. It's not like an expensive frame and then they've spec'd it badly, or some super decked out lipstick on a pig thing. This is, I feel like, is worth a mention. So what is it? It's a Cannondale System 6 frame from 2021. So starting with the fastest frame. Dura Ace 11 speed. That's totally good enough. No point moving to 12. Stick with your 11. Don't run the Cannondale integrated Well, I think they're actually two-piece, but they're really heavy, those Canada bars. So he's taken them off and he's gone to an EXS Air over in a 38 wide. Wheels, he's gone an Australian-built, Chinese-made wheel set, Caden, the Decadence, the new ones for 25, 60 mil, hooked, 25 internal, 34 external, about 1,400 grams. And that includes balancing. The guy that builds them, Ben, balances them. So for you marginal and beanie engineers that want your wheels balanced, there's a marginal gain there. Everything else is stock. The only other thing he's done as an upgrade is Aero bottles. So the full elite Tri-Dog Aero bottles, which with that frame, it almost feels half the entire middle triangle in that size 54. So good savings there. And then they're actually not tubeless. Unfortunately, he still runs them clincher, but he says he's going to move to tubeless soon. What do you think that bike weighs? Because this is where the rubber meets the road. Because the classic downside of this would be, obviously price aside, this is still going to be fairly expensive, but the price would be, well, that's going to be a dog because it's just going to be too heavy. I don't want to ride on that. Full build weight, including pedals.
System 6. The unknown here is those Caden wheels. Right, I'll say with pedals, computer mount, 8 kilos.
7.24.
No, it's not. That's a lie.
It is.
What?
I've got a photo of it. Yep. So that's with head unit mount. That's with no bottles, but bottle cages and pedals. 7.24. And that's as fast as you can get. I mean, you could maybe put some 80 mil wheels on and get blown off the track in a crosswind, but that's about as fast as a bike you're going to get.
Yep.
And it's not slammed. He's run the spaces, so he's got a bit of the Chris Miller Mick position going on. I just think well spec'd to start with, smart choices to build it up, and you're happy.
Yep.
So well played, Adrian. I love where this is going to go. Chris Miller giving us bike maintenance advice.
Now,
try your best, because you're the last person. You're the last person I would go to for.
I'm sick of this bullying. I've noticed this in the comments as well. All right, I'm not good mechanically. Like, get over yourselves. You don't need to flex this to me. Like, I don't sit around here and talk about like fitness and watts per kilo and shit. Like, but people are just as happy to get in the comments and tell me that I'm a retard for my inability to do anything mechanical. I can't do it. I try, but if things go, my problem is, as I can't problem solve mechanically.
Yes.
I can learn a procedure, like the waxing. I can learn the procedure to do that. When something goes wrong, I can't fix it. Done.
Okay.
It's a problem.
But you're about to talk us through how.
Well, because
what
I'm still someone who needs a bike that works when they're doing an event. So these are the steps that I go through. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yep.
So there's a long introduction, the worst introduction ever. Actually, maybe it's the best introduction. So getting your bike prepped for a big event. So there's obviously peaks coming up this week in Australia. There's a couple of other big events in the next few weeks as well. So I thought we might go through it. So obviously the first one is you book in to do your actual service. But as you've probably found out if you're someone living in Sydney this week, that trying to get your bike serviced the week before a big event like a Peaks or Melbourne to Warrnambool or something is not really going to happen. So what do you need to do? Well, I'm going to base this on some of the things that I've done wrong in the past, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Bolt check. So, bottle cages, seat posts, handlebars, all areas that I've had issues with on race day, particularly bottle cages. Because of a lot of them are those star bolts, you will find that they come loose, or you may not have had a very good T bolt that actually did it up. Have you ever had that problem on race day?
No.
Never?
No.
Yeah, anyway. I've had that a number of times. But head unit mounts, that's another one I've had come loose on race day a number of times. So check those bolts. Make sure they are correctly done.
So when's this check happening?
This week.
Isn't the event this week?
Well, the bolt check's this week.
Right. And when's the race?
Sunday.
You're not giving yourself much time if something goes wrong. Anyway, carry on. I would be doing this
Well,
last
okay,
week.
let's do it last week.
Okay.
100%.
All
Do
right.
it last
2
week.
weeks out.
2
Give
weeks
yourself
out.
2 weeks to fix
Especially
it.
with some of these.
Yeah.
You're dead right. The bolt check one, I just wanted to stay the bolt check one because that's the most recent issue that I've had.
Okay.
So, yes, that's the first one. Chain wear, definitely. Chain wear is something you do need to check a week out or 2 weeks out, especially if you're going to then go and wax it, as I do.
If you use a strip chip, you're all right. You can wax and reapply all in one go.
Yep. Brake pads, well worth a check. A lot of the time, you're riding the bike that you've just flogged for the last few months doing your training to actually get yourself prepared for this. So do a brake pad check, please. Now, tyres. What's your procedure with tyres, Jesse?
It's hard because you don't just want to put freshies on because the grip's not as good. You need a run-in time.
You do.
So I'd probably be putting them on 2 or 3 weeks out. But then if you're going to be doing a lot of Ks, you don't want to run the risk of puncturing them. And then maybe you put a plug in and then you're like, do I do the event on the plugged tire? So you got to have a sweet spot of enough time for the tires to wear in, which is probably about a week, but not so far out that you're risking flatting them and then having to bin a tire before the event.
Great call.
2 weeks out, probably.
Yeah, so I was the week I changed my rear tire. My front tire's okay. My rear tire last Tuesday to give me a weekend settle-in period and just see how it's running from there. But you're dead right. You want a little bit of space, but not no space to just be running completely nude tires on race day.
You see pro mechanics, they get like sandpaper and they rough them up. If you do have to change it the day before, just rough them up with some sandpaper.
Put a new tire on if it's a plugged tire. I would 100% recommend doing that. With my front tire, I just put some additional sealant in.
I will say, even if a plugged tire isn't garbage.
No.
So you can keep that as the backup tire, do the event on the fresh one. When that wears out, you can put the plugged one back on and still train it. Like I've raced and trained on a plugged tire for like 2 months after if it's been fresh. So
very true.
But yeah, you wouldn't probably want to do an event on it.
Batteries. So obviously charging your batteries. Check your shifter batteries is one that people do often forget. They're the little coin batteries normally. Checking that one. And if you are traveling with your bike, if you're on SRAM, do remove your batteries because if the bike's lent up against something and it's pressed down on the shifter, it will drain the battery out. So do remove them for that. Same with your disc brake wheels. If you're taking the wheels out, put the little, what do we call the little stoppers in there?
Oh, the brake blocks.
The brake blocks.
Yep.
Definitely travel with that or save any issues at the other end. Do you have a canister lifespan?
No.
No.
Forever.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think they expire.
No. All right. Know how to use it, basically. That's would be my own recommendation. And also check your plugs, that they're not dried out and crusty. They're still pluggable.
No, where are you on riding stuff on the handlebars? Bit of a pump up. Bit of a you've done the work.
The old motivational quote.
Kids' names, dog's name. Is that cool? Does that help? Have you ever done it? Probably first question.
Yes.
Oh.
Have I done it on the top tube? No.
Like a pain is temporary, pride is forever?
No, okay. I don't think they're all created equal. I do think the quotes are so douchey. Are just absolute. Like, what's his name? The Instagram guy? David Goggins.
Oh, okay.
It's like putting some random Goggins quote on there. Pain is temporary, all that crap. No, I don't like that.
No?
I also think there's a threshold with like the family thing. Like, sure, maybe a cute little note from your kid on the front might be nice. I think like a full family photo, that's probably a bit too much. We don't need that. Because what are we doing? We're just sweating all over it and I don't know. Concentrate on your head unit.
It actually helps.
Huh?
You should consider, now it depends on the event. There's especially a probably more like a time trial or something where you're really going to be suffering and the limit to how much you can suffer will directly affect your result. Will improve your performance to have something meaningful there. It was like in rowing, you did it. Like the rigger in front of you, your rigger, which sits in front of you, you would tape a piece of thing on it. You'd put something on it, and everyone would do it. The coach would tell you, you got to think of something, put it on there, and then you get like you're 1,500 meters into the 2-kilometer race, and your eyeballs are popping out of your head, and your legs are burning, and you're almost about to give up, but you got to kind of lift again, and you just look down and you go, whatever the thing says, it literally is a performance improvement. So as cringy as it is, now I would try and do something more personal than some lame quote, but something to say it is a marginal gain. Okay. I do think, like, especially in a time trial.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely suffering like a dog, and you look down, it just says whatever it is, and you're like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
It'll give you a boost when you need it.
Okay, I can see that. The reality, though, like for people doing 3 peaks or something, like if you look down, there's all this other faffing time. And so if I do something and I'd write, kids' names or something, all I'd be thinking is like, oh, it'd be nice to be with them now. Like you just, instead of the motivation, it's like, oh, yeah, I wish I was home. Like, yeah. So it's the opposite.
Maybe less relevant for a 10-hour Grand Fondo. Maybe, 20-minute, 30-minute hill climb time trial.
Yeah.
You look down with 15 to go, and you go, oof, little boost, little kick.
I can get around that. I like that. Maybe that's something MyCanyon could have added to their, you can add a name, you can add an inspirational quote to your top tube. David Goggins.
You only get to pick from 4 standard stock quotes.
Yeah.
You don't actually get to put your own in.
One other one, actually, if you're doing one of these events and you're doing it with a couple of mates, they get a mechanical. Do you stop? Now, the first year I did 3 peaks, when I was a proper mammal, cap under my helmet, full spec. A few of us did it. Mate got a flat on Tawonga. We all stopped. I regret it to this day.
Okay.
Regret it to this day.
I can't imagine a situation where I'd ever stop for you.
I said friends.
So
yeah.
I understand there's definitely friendship groups or agreements you've gone to do an event with someone where you would stop, but that's not my answer. My answer would be you carry on, do your prep, listen to Chris Miller, do your prep before so you know how to fix whatever you've got, and everyone's put in work, so we don't sacrifice everyone's result for one. We're not team. This isn't teamwork. There's no one team, one dream.
No.
It's we all salvage what we can, and we abandon our mates. So that's cycling.
Yes, this is a mechanical I'm talking about. I'm not talking about Jesse rides off a cliff and
we're
I
not
just
deployed
go,
in Fallujah. We're not. It's not. Yes, it's okay to leave a man behind.
Yeah, I agree. I think just you got a canister, even if they say no. Well, good luck. That said, I know if I was doing an event like this with you, you wouldn't have a canister. So you would actually just be good
if
luck.
I flattered it on Tawonga, spin around, go for a coffee and right, I think.
Well, I've almost had that situation. So yeah, but I only got 3Ks. All right, let us know down below if you guys have got any other tips for big event bike maintenance preparation.
Chris Miller, the time has come. I'm going to review the Giant Defy.
Oh, okay.
I don't want this to take 3 hours. So I've got notes.
Me too.
And I'm going to try and cover everything, but not go down 20-minute rabbit holes. One of the reasons why I'm going to do that, because I've only ridden it twice. So, shall we get started? Part 1. See, I put all my notes into ChatGPT and it sorted them for me. So, part 1, intro and context. So, the Giant Defy is one that we have rated highly previously. Dave Arthur has mentioned it in his videos, and I think we've backed him up and said it's probably a good choice for quite a lot of people. So keep that in mind.
Is it a bike radar? Has it got a bike radar stamp?
We will have to. Well, Giant are known for doing using the stickers. Maybe we'll have to check that one. And the Giant Defy and the TCR, I don't know what Giant do. This is just another cult following product. They seem to, people love these products, and I totally get that. Now, this isn't a glowing review of the bike, by the way. Spoiler. But I do understand there are a lot of people that love this bike, so I'm just putting that there in part 1. Part 2, what is the Giant Defy? It's essentially just the TCR, but with drop seat stays, a comfortable seat post, and 15 millimeters more stack. I mean, we had them side by side. The tube shapes are almost identical. Oh, yeah. So it's not like it's a totally different bike. It's basically just a slightly endurance tweaked version of the TCR. So let's just compare quickly the geometry to a few other bikes. So compared to Giant's own TCR, the TCR is 9 mil longer, but only 15 millimeters lower. It's not that much. A little bit. The Cannondale System 6, which is an Aero-tuned out-and-out race bike, but is known to have more of a relaxed geometry. The System 6 is only 5 millimeters longer and 2 millimeters lower. So this Giant Defy endurance bike, in the medium-large size, compared to a size 56 Super 6, is basically identical. Compared to the Tavello I was using, the Tavello is 7 mil longer and 32 millimeters lower. The Tavello is obviously more aggressive. Compared to the 2019 Defy, so this is before they did this, we're going to make it this crossover race endurance bike. The old Defy was 3 millimeters shorter in reach and 9 millimeters higher in stack.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's pretty significant. And then compared to two other current market endurance bikes, the Specialized Roubaix is 5 millimeters longer, but 28 millimeters higher than the Defy. And the Trek de Marne is 7 millimeters shorter, but 14 millimeters higher. So what this bike is doing is basically coming in line with the more relaxed of the out-and-out race bikes and bridging the gap between TCR and an actual endurance bike. I've got more to say on that in terms of who it's for, but just keep that in mind when we're looking at this bike. It's just important to know. So
it's interesting that, because in my brain, without having known that going in, I thought the comp for this was the Propel. I thought that was the discussion point. Oh, am I going to get a Propel or a Defy? That's clearly not the situation from what we're saying. Okay.
It's closer. It's more in that realm than going, I'm going to get a Defy. Sorry, I'm going to get a Propel or a Specialized Roubaix.
Yeah.
They're totally different light years. Yeah. It's not insane. You actually are right. Like, that's not a weird purchasing decision that someone might be looking between a Propel and this version of the Defy because it's come closer to that race geometry. So that's a good note. Next section, the ride feel. What's the review? So when I am reviewing the bike, and this is what I did with the Envy, when I ride it, I'm not going out looking for things. I literally start a notes section on my notes app and I just ride it. And if I notice something or I feel something, I write it down. So keep that in mind. I know, because I don't want to overanalyze. I just want to write something down if it stands out as I ride the bike. So firstly, comfort. The seat post flex is undeniably giving compliance. I've done side-by-side videos between the Tavello and the Defy. Please excuse my gigantic rear end. It's not the most flattering angle. But you can see, we'll play the Tavello. This is me putting about the same weight through the back of the seat. There's like a few mil of deflection there on the Tavello. And then you do the same thing on the Defy, and you can see just that top bit of the seat post. It's regular as it comes out of the frame, and then it gets quite thin towards the top. It's that defuse seat post. And that is undeniably doing something. It's flexing. So this is getting a bit more comfort. The front end comfort in through the hands are unnoticeable. Didn't really, like, nothing. You'll remember when I reviewed the Enviable A, it was noticeable. I put it in the notes that, wow, this is noticeably more comfortable through the front end. The Defy, I didn't really notice anything. I've got an analogy to describe how a frame rides, and I want to know if it rings true with you and maybe for everyone listening. So there's a feeling in a high-quality bike, I feel. It has a resonance and a feel in the frame, as if you're hitting a PVC plumbing pipe with a stick. You're banging it with a stick. It's got this hollow feeling, this kind of airiness to it, and it kind of resonates. That's how the frame actually feels. and then imagine you dropped the PVC pipe in the dirt and then banged it with a stick. And it's kind of just dull, doesn't really have much vibration. It's just, it's just like really flattened out. So, the Envy has that resonance feeling. The Tavelo has that resonance feeling. The Develowy Road, dead. Doesn't really give much off. Unfortunately for the Defy, it kind of feels like the pipe sitting in dirt. It doesn't really give much of an excitement to that in that way. It's not really a performance thing. I'm not saying that it's slower, but in terms of excitement to ride, it really feels like a pretty average frame, but with a seat post that flex. And that's basically what it essentially is. Unfortunately, it wasn't really overperforming in that kind of ride feel thing. Have you experienced that with a bike? Or am I going mad?
No, I wouldn't describe it like that. You are clearly the son of a plumber, so that's why you're
Bricklayer.
Bricklayer. Apologies. But yes, I know the feeling you're talking about. The analogy I sort of more use is around this floating feel that I feel like a high quality bike gives me. That the dead Devel being the other end of that spectrum, where I felt like this isn't a ride sensation or a compliance thing. It's that I felt that there was nothing, that the bike was between me and the road. Whereas when I get on a better bike, I don't feel like the bike is between me and the road.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, but that's how I describe it.
Yeah. I think we're probably, given that you didn't notice on the Defel and you did on the S5, I also noticed on the S5 when I rode Lockies over in Europe. So I think we're describing the same feel, right? Unfortunately, the Defy just doesn't have this feel. Okay, what else can I review with the ride? The weight of it, 7.6 kilos with pedals, and Shimano Ultegra. My Tavelo, 7.5. It's about it's not far off. So I wouldn't say that's heavy, but it's also not light. It's just kind of run of the mill. And keep in mind, this is with the same wheels. I was reviewing it, the CRWs. Cornering, nothing to note. I mentioned on the Envy, it felt a bit, I had to put more input. I kind of noticed that. The Defy, I almost didn't really, didn't really bring up anything. That's probably a good thing, given that I was coming off the Tavelo, so it's not feeling really sluggish in the cornering. And the stiffness, didn't noticeably lack stiffness. I did my highest ever peak power on this, 1650 watts, and about 1500 for 5 seconds. It just doesn't, fine, feels, I wasn't like, whoa, this is a noodle. It just really didn't, in terms of stiffness, I almost don't have a comment. It's just, feels okay, feels decent, which maybe that's just what you want from an endurance bike, is pass marks on those things.
I think I sprinted next to you on one of those.
For a few seconds.
For a few seconds.
Yeah.
But for a few seconds. Which I don't think should be the case if you're pumping out 1600 watts, because I'm not doing that at all. Yeah. Okay. Because that was my interest. My interest was the acceleration aspect of it.
Yeah. I mean, my answer to it is just average. Neither here nor there.
Okay.
Now the stack height dilemma. This is the one. This is the gotcha. Because they've tried to make a racy endurance bike, that stack height's not going to be high enough for the actual endurance riders. For the guys that are on 7 centimeters a stack, this is not going to be high enough, because for most people that are already on a Defy running 3 or 4 centimeters of spaces, they're getting this Defy, they're still going to have to run spaces. So that's the problem. If you're buying this for a bike fit point of view, you're still going to have to run spaces. And so there are definitely people that, if they go get a bike fit and the fit says, well, you need to come up in stack, unfortunately, you're probably going to be going to a Rebay or a Damane. Is there a problem with running lots of spaces? Because we've talked about this fact that it's a benefit having a higher stack because you don't have to run any spaces. And aside from aesthetics, Like, what is the problem with having to run spaces?
Well, I've referenced this in one of the reasons I think this sort of type of endurance bike is struggling is because you can run spaces now on road bikes without the big chimney stack that it used to be because of the integration. And yes, you do have to get it right. I understand that. You have to cut the fork at the right point. But the way the spaces operate now, they're designed to be solid.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get away with 15, 20 mil under there. No two ways about it. And aesthetically, I don't actually think it loses anything. You look at the Jayco guys on the propels this year. There's not many slammed stems there. They're mostly got spaces under there. But from a
performance point of view,
from a performance point of view, there's probably a threshold.
Yeah. I mean, the things I noted was, I kind of looked it up. I was like, well, am I just saying this, but is there actually a downside? I think it makes the front end slightly less stiff. It's probably not going to corner as well and sprint as well. And then obviously it makes the bike fitting trickier because if you're getting towards the top height of as much fork you've got left, there's that. But so I'm going to go for who should buy this and who shouldn't buy this. And so, but just to wrap up my ride review, it's a pretty average feeling frame with a comfortable seat post and that handles kind of like a race bike at an okay weight. That's not overly exciting. Who shouldn't buy this? Riders that care about Aero. If you listen to the NERO show, and even if you're not pulling turns at 50k an hour, if you just care that your bike has some Aero tweaks, you're just not going to be interested in this. Just get a Super 6 Evo Cannondale. Like, that's the competitor, really, for this bike, for that crowd. People that are really into climbing, doing, mountainous hort routes, is too heavy. It's just not a good climbing bike for that. So you could spec up to the advanced SL model. That'd probably get you down closer to 7. But if you're really into climbing on a climbing bike, I don't feel like this is going to cut it. And then obviously the people that are buying an endurance bike for bike fit, it's too low. Then it's not going to work for you. So who should buy it? I think we've come at this bike from the wrong angle. And Dave Arthur had it right. We've been talking about the Defy as a more relaxed option for someone that races. And I don't think, based on how I've ridden it, that someone that's a racer or has come from a quote-unquote better bike is not going to ride very well. You're not going to appreciate it. So I think that's the wrong angle. It's a racier bike for someone coming from an older, sluggish endurance bike, like an 8.5 kilo old Roubaix with a Future Shock thing. You get on this, it feels a bit racier, feels a bit snappier, and it still allows you to get in a decent position. Someone like my dad doesn't care about Aero at all. Got a 5-year-old Merida with a bunch of spacers. He wants disc brakes. He can get along well with this. Someone coming from a TCR who wants a bit more stability, a bit more comfort because of the seat post, and then they can remove a few spacers or come up a bit higher. So that TCR fanboy, and there's a lot of them, they'd be good for this.
Can I ask you a question before we move on?
Mm-hmm.
If you were Giant, moving forward with your range of bikes, how would you structure these 3 bikes?
Yeah. Okay. They need to merge the TCR and the Defy. They're too close. So they need to take the Defy. I think the Defy geometry is better. The pro riders don't use the TCR anyway. So the Defy should just become the TCR. Maybe if they can do something in the layup to make it a bit more exciting, and cut the weight down a little bit, it'd be a great TCR. And they can have that as that. And then they would probably look at doing an endurance bike, which would become a 4-season bike, or an all-road bike, would probably be what they do. Do they even need that? Because I know they've got the Revolt.
Well, I think that's the argument.
You could potentially, you don't even need that, really. I'm all for more choice, so I'm all more for that. But really, I see this Defy as, for more people, just a better version of the TCR. And then for the person that was on the TCR, just tell them, just go get the Propel, it's faster. It's about the same weight.
Yep.
And if you don't want that, you get this. So that's what I think, based on how these are riding, Giant should do. And again, the problem for this bike is a rider gets this and they start getting more into the performance side of thing, I think they'll outgrow this quickly. They start listening to the NERO show, they do it for club rides, and they start to go, I wish this fork was a bit deeper. Wish this was a bit more aero. Like, that's naturally people are going to go through that process. And I think people will outgrow
You've
it.
almost, yeah, it's really hard. Because you kind of described the person buying this bike as the person who is coming up through the endurance bike ranks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're saying that they're going to outgrow this tier quite quickly. Yeah, okay.
Because the person that, if they're coming through the sport, they're probably going to buy this and then go, I wish I had a Super 6. I really think that. And so, yeah, that's just how that would end up.
No, that was a really good review. Good breakdown, Jesse. All right, I just want to fire a few training concepts at you. I'm not sure what these are.
It's an exciting time for, I was going to say, it's an exciting time for Sydney. I literally mean, it's an exciting time here because I'm back training.
Yeah.
You've been training.
Yeah.
I'm back doing a little bit of racing, doing the bunch rides.
Yep.
So we're starting to get some movement.
Bits and pieces are happening.
Yep.
So my question to you was, so I had started to, the last few weeks, so I'm getting closer to some of the events that I've been training for. And what I've been doing is tacking efforts on to otherwise hard group rides or races for that matter. So we have a Tuesday night crit here, and what I've been doing is doing a 20-minute effort before that and then going down and doing the race. Now, I should add, the race itself is like a handicap race, so it's almost, it's not that I'm never going to win it, but I'm never going to win it. But it's a good race in the sense that you can go really hard because it's a handicap, so you have to roll turns consistently. So there's that. But the other thing that I'd been doing was more the fast-paced group ride. I'd been tacking on some quite hard 20-minute efforts prior to the fast-paced group ride, and then kind of suffering my way through the chops at a ride. Question.
Yep.
Is this actually a training? Am I getting good training stimulus from this, or is it sort of quasi bullshit Strava froth that it's like, hey, look at me, I'm so fit, I can do a training effort before a group ride? Like, what do you think? Well, answer the first question first. Is there actual benefit to what I'm doing?
Yes, there is definitely benefit, especially if you're. I mean, we don't do a season, but especially in a end of pre-season, start of the race season, lead into a race, and going and doing the chop for an hour isn't enough. But you're on limited days in the week where you can do a higher load ride. Instead of going and doing the chop on a Tuesday, you're going to be tired on Wednesday anyway, even if it's just the 1 hour effort. Then you would just make that one ride the higher load ride and do your pre's. So that definitely makes sense. It's stupid to do all year round or earlier in the season because it leaves nowhere for progression to come in. But yeah, you go and do the chop 6 weeks in a row, and then you do 20-minute effort before the chop. Yeah, build out like that. That is good. I hate it though. As someone who also goes and does the ride with you, suddenly then it's like skip a turn Miller or can't be bothered closing that, flicking elbows. Like, it's not as fun for the actual ride as the other people, for everyone else that's there.
Yeah. Is it something do you prescribe it at all? Like, if someone's got a weekend 2-hour bunch ride that they do every weekend, will you ever prescribe, hey, do that, but then do X?
Usually it would be extras after, because generally those types of rides are going to be in the morning. But both, if either it's doing extras works or doing pre's also works pretty commonly. Yeah, I would be prescribing that type of session in.
It's still quite douchey though, isn't it?
It can be a bit douchey in the sense that you're doing it for a training benefit, not just because it looks cool. Whereas I think a lot of people probably aren't doing it thoughtfully. They're just doing it because it's like easy Ks and they keep the average speed high and then you got 100K, you know, in 2.5 hours. So
Yeah.
there's that factor.
Because I have a real pet hate with you, especially when someone will turn up to a race or something and go, oh, I did 200 miles yesterday. I'm just so stuffed. Or, you know, I just did 2 20-minute efforts. I don't really care about this. I just hate that chat. So I found myself not saying anything as such when I would turn up to these things that, hey, I'm going to be junked today because of this. But yeah.
I am a bit, actually, from a training point of view, I actually set that a lot. And it's one of the things, like when we had the Trainer Road chat, that like a Trainer Road's just not going to be able to do that. Maybe an AI system in the future could, but any training plan system, how is it going to schedule that? It's just not going to be able to. So little things like that, which are really difficult for a generic system to do, but are really good training sessions are
anecdotally,
killer.
Like that last one that I did is in the top 10, top 8 emptiest I felt at the end of a bike ride this year. Maybe even top 5. Because you just can't mimic that. I'm going to do the 20-minute effort and then do this afterwards.
But there's a trap. Because the bunch ride portion isn't measured, you don't know if you're performing well or not, usually till you get home and you analyze it. And so it really quickly becomes a race to the bottom because if you don't fuel enough and it's too early in the season and it's not you're not really ready for that kind of work, and then you're barely hanging on to the wheel and you're just sucking yourself through it. And if you were doing that as a solo structured session, you'd go, wow, I'm not ready for this. Like, I suck. I'm on my third 20-minute effort and I'm falling apart. Whereas if it's a group ride, you don't really notice because you're just like, oh, I just need to try and hold the wheel. And so if you're not smart about it, it potentially just comes pointless head banging against a wall.
See that.
And like, yeah, if you've said you were broken at the end of it and it was a really good session, I'm still assuming you were ready for that session, you fueled it well, and it's just a really high quality session. But for a lot of people, that wouldn't be the case. Yeah.
Because it was a bit hotter on that second Thursday as well. And so my heart rate for those 2 20-minute efforts leading into them were a good bit higher than the previous week. I knew it was going to be something. Yeah, and it was, basically.
We did a race against each other. Crit race here from Park. Sunday morning, Waratah Masters. I beat you. Question.
Yes.
We
should
start
have
off
actually
the
raced
race.
an extra 4 laps. Yes, that is the answer.
Okay, I would have got you anyway. We start the race, really aggressive race into kickoff. Question. And I get this question a fair amount. What power do you do to get in the breakaway?
What?
How many watts are you doing?
Absolutely no idea.
Right.
Do you want me to look?
I don't want you to look. I'm asking if let's say you're a B grade, you think I might move up to A grade, and you look at like a race like that and riders getting off the front in the first few laps. And the question is, well, what power do I have to do? How do I do that? You don't?
No, it would never have even entered my brain.
Right.
How
hard do you have to go?
As hard as I can. Normally. Like, that's normally the way it is.
Okay.
That was potentially that was basically certainly 10 minutes of pretty much as hard as I can go to make sure that's stuck. Yeah. I don't know. And that's it's just a really stupid question because you might be trying to get in a break 24 times and it might be the actual, the attack that was the least aggressive that ultimately gets away. That's rarely the opportunity, the reality. But yeah, I mean, how hard do you go? Is it something you do have a gauge on?
I have a similar answer in that I don't necessarily know what power I do, but there's an effort level gauge which is dictated to depending on what the attack is. How much separation did you get? Who do you think's chasing? What direction is the wind going? Is there a chance that you can stretch off the front if you put the hammer down? Or is it just one of those testing attacks that you're floating around at the front? Because How do you know when to commit to it?
Mm.
You know, do you because brakes can go in all types of sometimes, just floats off. You're going, how the hell did they get off? They rode off. And sometimes it's an absolute brute force smash fest until someone breaks. What do you do?
That's why I race week in, week out, because it's it's incredibly varied. They're absolutely incredibly varied. There is so like who is the person you're potentially bridging across to? Who's the person coming across to you? Where the wind is at certain times. Well, let me just think about that particular case study that we're talking about there.
Mm.
So, one rider had sort of ridden off the front, and I had positioned myself further to the back of the bunch,
Mm-hmm.
and I basically just went from the back and went full attack from the very back. There was a big slowing into a head. Actually, we were into a slight headwind at that point, but I knew that the bunch was quite slow and I could actually get a bit of separation in it, and it was coming into a cornering section. So hit it there, got across without any reaction onto the downwind section of the course, linked up to the guy that was already there, called out to him as I was coming. He jumped on, and then we sort of made our way further around the course, and then next minute you appear on the wheel. And once I saw that you were there, I think I then went again as hard as I could for a pull, a turn, maybe a minute, maybe less.
Mm-hmm.
And we tried to essentially hold a gap from there. Was it an all-out effort at the time to stay away? Yes. Because the circumstance of you coming across without anyone else was pretty good for the race situation.
Mm-hmm.
So it was worth committing to. I would deal with the repercussions of it not working some other time.
Mm. That's what happens, right? Because if you do such a hard pull that you're basically you're well above threshold heart rate, you're kind of close to max heart rate. You're kind of going, I don't really have much of a gear to go. The risk is that you get caught and someone then does a counterattack and you could easily miss it.
Mm. You just have to kick again, which was the situation I found myself in at West Head last weekend, which was I'd been in what I thought was a good solid move. It came back with a couple of K to go. Two really strong guys went over the top of me, and I just knew that was going to be it. It had to be, and I just had to go across, and I did. But I would have paid for that in the end, but there's no perfect scenario.
I would say generally it's people don't always realize how hard the establishment of a brake is. Like quite often, that's the hardest part of the race. The most difficult, the most risk you have of completely blowing up and getting dropped is a situation to get a breakaway. It's not always like that. Sometimes you're lucky that you just manage to sneak off, but most of the time, there's some portion between that kind of 30 seconds after you attack, a few riders come together, bit of a gap to the bunch, and you're either going to get swallowed up or someone's just going to absolutely rip a turn. And that turn you do is really, when you finish it, it might be a 40-second pull. And you're going, and this is how it happens. You have to go so hard that you're kind of wondering if you're actually able to get back in the wheel. And sometimes you might not. Sometimes if now generally there's an agreement in that the person that's coming after you, hopefully they don't sprint to start their turn because they'll probably gap you and then you will be dropped. So there's generally agreement that, well, I want you to stay on. So I'm going to start my turn a little easier. Wait till they're in the draft. And then the next person will do their massive pull. But in that moment, which could be from 30 seconds after the gap gets pulled out to maybe, doesn't take long, it'd be like 3 or 4 minute period of just absolute, the hardest, worst part of the race.
Yep.
And then you can settle in. Then, yeah, you're probably pulling it just under zone 4, hopefully, if you're in decent shape. But I think, yeah, that period of the race, I think a lot of riders aren't prepared for that. And then they're kind of wondering why brakes are getting away. And it's because they're just not quite.
The lack of commitment is something that you see the lower down the grades you go. And the giveaway to me is the look back. I hate a look back person in an early establishment of a breakaway. Obviously, you've got to pay some attention that the whole bunch isn't literally sitting right on your wheel.
Yes. Yep.
But there's that person that, they're only 100 meters behind us. Look back, look back, look back. Will I commit? Won't I commit? It's those sort of hesitations that ultimately tend to lead to a breakaway being brought back. Anyway.
And sometimes it's the right call. The look back and you go, yeah, I'm not. Why would I go to 100% here just to have a bunch of guys 20 meters behind? This is pointless. But for most of the time when those breaks go, it's because there's a moment where people have just decided to fully commit.
Yep. We talk about the shenanigans that occurred at the end of this race.
Yeah. So we're a 2-up team time trial.
2-up team time trial. We're away. Now, the commissaire on the start line, 45 minutes. Boys?
+1. Yep.
45's +1.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was lucky because I had the tailwind turns.
Yeah. This is big.
This is a huge advantage to have.
And like a big tailwind section. That was strong
proper
tailwind. Yeah.
So I knew that if I got in a good aero position and I held good power, you'd be pretty much having almost do the same power on my wheel.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't being a total dick about it. Like I was like, you're letting us get in, but then I'd go pretty hard.
And the hardest part of my lap wasn't my pull into the headwind. It was actually your tailwind section where my heart rate was highest. Yeah.
So there is that dynamic playing out. And then your pull would be more into the wind, coming down the back straight. I certainly felt as we settled in that there was going to be an opportunity for me to at least attack and potentially hold you up for that. Because as we discussed, 1,600 watts over there, that's not going to end well for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we were both, I felt you were committing, given you were having to pull into the headwind. I certainly didn't think you were soft pedaling at any point. Coming into 38 minutes, I very much considered just before you were about to turn off attacking. I didn't. We rounded the corner and it turned out that there'd been a crash was it in our grade or maybe it was in B grade?
Yeah.
And there were a few guys strewn over the ground. So we navigated the crash at 38 minutes. Then we come onto the start-finish line, down the straight. Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. You get the last lap.
Yeah.
So going from in a position to think I had 3 or 4 laps to potentially start attempting to work you over, I went down to, this is just going to be a Sookie Chris situation. And yes, as you finished your turn, I attempted a very half-assed,
Why did you do that?
Attack.
Why didn't you just have a crack in the sprint? You wouldn't. How did you think that was going to end?
I thought potentially with the crash having occurred that they might neutralize us anyway. Right. So I thought, have a go. There could be, you might come around the corner and get a bit like, oh, what's going on here? And there could be a bit of that sort of stuff happening. And then I get a little gap on you and can hold it because it's a tailwind finish. I thought potentially that.
So you'd ride through the neutralization.
Yes.
And then stick the hands up.
That's it.
Okay.
That was sort of my plan. And then you just absolutely.
Bike racing is so fun because Chris had the tailwind turn along the finish straight, and I had the back straight into the headwind. And I knew you were going to try and attack. I could smell it. I could smell it on you that you were going to have a crack, and it made sense to do it in the tailwind. So here's my plan. I already knew you were going to do it, even though the race got called early. My plan was actually not to try follow. My plan was to let you go, wait till the adrenaline wears off, and you get half the way around the course, and you hit that block headwind that I've freaking been riding into, and you don't realize how strong it is because you've been sitting behind my fat ass for 15 laps. And then I was just going to try and tuck in, and it would just be mano-y-mano. Who's got the balls? And I thought I was literally at that stage. If it was just a sprint you didn't attack, I was just impossible for you to win. I literally was kind of going, it's a toss a coin. If I let you go, if I try follow you in the tailwind, I'll probably blow. If I let you go, adrenaline wears off, you hit the headwind, maybe I have the legs to reel you back in, tuck my head down. But toss a coin.
It would have been a tale to tell the grandchildren about. It would have been discussed. It would have been written in tablets. That was. It's interesting that you would have let me go. Potentially, I could have blown myself up. That is a probability.
It's not so the reason why that works is going really hard into the tailwind before a headwind section is an ineffective way to pace a lap. So if you're doing that from 2 laps to go, and I ride it more like a time trial and save energy for the headwind, I'll be better off. So it would give, even though you're fitter, it would give me a better chance to chase.
Yes.
That was my thinking.
Yeah. Which should have I maybe? I mean, obviously, I should have attacked earlier, given what happened. But I don't think you were fatigued enough. Ultimately, I think I probably needed another 20 minutes of us chopping off, and you fully committing, or at least.
I would have slowed down.
Yeah. I don't. I think if it was an hour crit, I could have got you. But I think even the 45 was probably causing me.
We'll never know.
But anyway,
I
just love the fact that, we sit here, obviously we chat all the time. There's not one word was said. That whole break, just complete silence.
I was being nice too. I was gonna start to flick my elbow early to try and get out of half the headwind turn, because generally that's what you would do. Is if someone's just doing the tailwind, you start to either pull longer or end your turn earlier to try and move the turns around the course. I didn't even do that. I was way too kind.
I would have.
You would have
accepted.
fought back. Oh, you would have accepted?
I would have accepted.
Okay.
I felt like I was getting a good deal. No two ways about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Happens, Mike. It's so fun.
Brilliant.
Just Were you regretting wearing that sloppy non-aero Poc vented climbing helmet?
Yeah.
I had a feeling once we got away, I was like, oh, I bet Chris wish he had his Pro Air on.
Yeah. Can I chat about that helmet?
Yeah.
Is there any chat there?
Yeah.
So I haven't talked. This is what's it called? The Poc
Cytal.
The Poc Cytal helmet. Which I haven't really been riding in because I hate black helmets. I just hate black helmets. I don't think they're safe and they shouldn't be made. But anyway, Pete at Bunny Hop Wraps has produced a cracker of it. This is one of his best, just quietly, one of his best. Wrap on it, so it's all of a sudden rideable for me from a visual perspective. Which brings me on to actually what it is riding. So the reason I wanted to get this and ride this is because it is kind of unique in the sense that the way that it's formed is it has just one little carbon bit across the top, but everything else is just sucking air in. And from a ventilation perspective, it is wild. It feels even different to riding without a helmet on because it's like it's actually directing air onto your head at times and at speed. And so it does feel quite bizarre and airy. No two ways about it. But this has to be slow. Like I just don't. To have a helmet that is sucking in that much air onto your head is. There's no testing stuff done on this yet, but
well, you wouldn't bother. It's a gigantic mushroom fan.
So, quick buyer's guide for it. If you are living in a very hot climate, climbing, that's your thing. Second to none. Fantastic. You're doing a crit race at any point in your life. Are
you going to use it at peaks?
Yes.
Oh.
I'll use it at peaks, unless it's cold. That's the other thing. It's not going to provide much in the way of warmth at any point. But I'll definitely run it at peaks. Definitely. And I like training in it now because it's orange. Super visual.
Matches the skin suit. Yep. Last one, Chris, I think.
Yep, let's finish up.
Operation Make Coyle Aero again. Or maybe another one. Operation Coyle rides the correct size bike. Tavello has arrived in the bigger size. So for those that aren't following, what was it? A couple months ago, we had Mick, the bike fitter, on to bully me about my aero position. And the take home was, you're too low. You need to come up and you need to come out a bit longer. And to do that, you're either going to need a new fork that's got more stack on it or a bigger bike.
Yep.
And so Tavello have sent me the bigger size frame. So quickly to talk through, I took some side-on video, the new frame is 10 mil longer and 28 mil higher. And I should be able to add at least 20 mil more spaces under what I've currently got. So I'm coming up about 5 centimeters, potentially more if I can fit another spacer. And so if you look at this video, I'm riding, if you can put this up, there's 2 positions of me. There's me with my forearms horizontal, and this is what Mick's talking about. I can't ride in that position. It's too low. I can't really do any power. It's pointless. So the position I actually ride in a race is where the position I move to, where my forearms are on a bit of an angle coming down, and then I'm pretty good at getting my head tucked and bringing the shoulders in. And you can see I put a photo in there from us off the front of Heffron. That's basically me in my aero position rocked over.
Yep.
And so the goal of this project, I think, is to be in that position. And so, but have the handlebars at a height where my forearms are horizontal and I'm all tucked in, and that's going to save some aero drag without changing my back angle. There's still 2 still images I put into the notes there, Chris. One of them is me with the handlebar too low, with my forearms flat, and you can see my forearms are flat, but again, I can't ride in that position. So I've done a bit of a Photoshop, the world's worst Photoshop job, about what this frame is going to get me to. And so I've added on 2 sets of stack, which is the stack increase from the frame, and then the stack increase for running a few more spaces. That's about 5 centimeters higher. Here's my problem. I still don't think that's high enough because you can still see that white line across isn't in line with my elbow. So I'm probably going to need another 2 or 3 centimeters on top of that. And this is the biggest size that Tavelo make. And this is where we'll find out, but potentially I'm getting into the arm Peters territory where I can't get enough stack height on the frame. But we will see. I'm going to get Edwin to set the frame up with all the spaces when he builds it, and we'll go from there.
So I've chatted to Mick about this. We've been discussing it offline.
Okay.
Yeah, look, he thinks a minimum of 25 mil to come up.
Yep.
Minimum.
Yep.
And to then go longer by 10 to 20.
Ooh, okay. I'm only getting 10 longer because I'm running the same stem. I didn't get the 140 length bars.
I think that's potentially going to be an issue for you to get in the 90-degree setup position, because otherwise you're going to find, because ultimately, and he's drawn a few pictures, I'll put them up, and I actually just messaged that to you, but just that you got a bit of the Miller hunch happening in the back there.
Okay.
Which should get neutralized by coming up. It's
so
going to be
I'm
interesting.
Potentially needing a 140 stem.
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So how much longer is the frame?
10 mil.
10. Yeah, because to be coming up, you should be coming out.
Yeah, if you come higher and you don't make any change to your reach, you effectively have a shorter reach.
So I doubled that. So I came up 10 centimeters and I went 20 centimeters longer.
Okay. That's notable. That's potentially going to be a problem because I'm only getting about 10 mil extra reach.
Yep.
So, okay. I noted.
We'll see, because the other thing potentially will be, and that's assuming you don't have to do anything at the back. You don't have to slide your setback or anything like that around.
I'm very comfortable with my saddle position.
Yes. So he did mention that.
I don't really want to touch any of that.
Okay.
It's literally just, can I bring my handlebars to meet me in the position I already race in? And sounds like, yeah, we'll see. Frame has arrived, so I'm going to do it, and we'll report back on how it all goes. The only thing else I've got up my sleeve is you can effectively get a little bit more reach if you tilt the levers in and tilt them down a bit, because it pulls your wrists forward. And so I might be able to dodgy my way to about an extra centimeter by doing that kind of Tucko Vanderhorn hoods position, because it kind of pulls everything forward a little bit.
Yep.
But the problem is then that drops the stack a little bit too. So if I can get high enough, I might play around with that to kind of pull myself forward a bit, but we'll see how that goes.
All right, I reckon that's pretty much us done. Just before we go, peaks this weekend. So 2,500 entries officially. So it did officially sell out, which is awesome news. Has been a few cancellations. Didn't get the Ks in. So I think it's dropped back down to about 2,300 ultimately. But that's something. We are looking at 20% up on women's entries. 20%. This is the most female entries ever into Three Peaks, which is pretty cool. And a quick note that the weather is potentially pretty unpredictable this weekend, so they are suggesting to utilize the valet services. And what I would say is just bring all the clothes that you own down and work it out. That's the day before. That's what you do.
Lay it all out.
Lay it all out.
Suitcase explosion, as they call it.
And just have the chats down there. Who's doing what, and get your gear down there. But apart from that,
that's the chat the day before.
Oh, great
what are you
chat.
wearing?
What are you wearing?
Phone calls, video calls, FaceTimes. Yeah.
What was on the stuff? Jeez, I don't know. It's jackets. Yep, it's all happening. And if you do have good photochromatic lenses, I would suggest those as well, because you do start in pretty much the dark. So and you're descending. So it's good to have sunnies on, but your sunnies are
photochromatic. That's the transitions type lenses, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah. That's my little bit of advice. All right. We'll see you next week.
See you then.
Yep.